we spent over the last 5 years implementing a way to really gather evidence of that. One of the big tasks of the team that came in was looking at our school-wide learning expectations and looking for evidence of that around the school, and the things that they would see, the things they would hear, the conversations they would have, what they would see in tests and things hanging on walls, and so forth. And our next step is to develop a rubric so that we know that we are meeting those expectations when it comes to analyzing curriculum, when it comes to student achievement, and it's a logical next step for us. We first developed the SLEs as far as the gathering of evidence about 5 years ago, compiling it. So that will be our critical goal, number 2. Critical goal number 3, enhance the campus ministry program to support the school mission and to strengthen partnership with families and local parishes. And it might seem somewhat contradictory in that in their kind of glowing summary, they talked about all of the advancement we made in campus ministry and in our Catholic identity. We are a school like no other, though, in the Diocese of Orange. We are an independent Catholic school that is recognized in the diocese, and there's no other like us. We don't have a parish, we don't have a church building, so we're very unique in that regard. And really, we serve students from many different parishes, from St. Edward's, from Syrian Catholic, from the Basilica. We are very diverse in that regard, Catholic and non-Catholic, but our obligation to provide ministry to all of our students is paramount. So we're in kind of a unique situation, and we have more work to undertake as far as strengthening those relationships with families and making sure that we have good relationships with the parishes so that they understand us as a school as well. The team that came in, one of the things that they had to kind of get accustomed to or understand is how we are different from a parish school. And I met with the chair of the team a number of different times because she hadn't worked with a private Catholic independent school either, to help them understand how we function and operate. And they were very, very helpful in that regard. And I think they were very enlightened about the art of the possible in a school like ours. Critical goal number 3. The school will develop and implement a formal differentiation program at preschool through 8th grade. This came also from our CAIS accreditation process and a recommendation from them as far as enhancing the teaching and learning that's happening in classrooms so that all of our students' needs are being met in their learning. And we're going to be speaking more about that in just a bit. And critical goal number 5. The school will develop and implement a plan to enhance academic support for all students. This is also connected to the last accreditation from CAIS.
I just got a text that the live stream's not working.
Have a refresh.
Okay, sorry, someone's asking me. Okay, okay.
So if the live stream stops working, do a refresh. If that doesn't work, please call in and ask for Max Barron. Do a refresh. All right, so anyway, this might seem like a redundancy when you think in terms of differentiation, but one of the things we want to make sure that we're doing is doing all that we can to meet the needs of all of our students. This is something that many of our peer schools are doing as well. We want to make sure that we're able to serve all of the students that are here. And at times that might require the kind of teaching and learning that's very different from your average classroom. There are some schools that have adopted schools within a school, a sort of special ed kind of experience for students who may not be able to handle the regular curriculum. So we're going to begin to explore that. We have the great luxury of having a school psychologist here. And there's not many, I don't know of any actually, schools in the diocese that have that. So we've got a very gifted school psychologist that we can work with to help kind of start a program or envision a future where we're able to kind of follow through on this in a very good way. So those are our 5 critical goals that came from WCEA. So what are the next steps in that? Well, the team will put together a justification statement and a recommendation, and that's happening like right now, happened like yesterday. So that's submitted to the WCEA Commission. And that is a justification of their report of findings and then a recommendation for what kind of accreditation we will get. And that would be a 1 year, we're coming back in 1 year and you better fix things. We didn't get that, I know. A midterm, like three-year, or a full accreditation with a midterm check-in, which is what I think we will get because the summary was very glowing and all of my conversations with our chair were very, very positive and very, very good. There will be a review by the WCE commissioners in May and June, so there's about 8 other Catholic schools that are also going through accreditation, and then the commission sits down and they look through all the reports and all the justification statements and recommendations, and they go from there. We will have a report on those critical goals. There will be 2 of them. We do 2 a year. That will go to the WCEA in June. And then we will refine our strategic plan. So those strategic pillars that I talked about earlier, and then at the last state of the school, that will be infused with all of the affirmation and results and suggestions that we got from this process. And then we'll get a notification of our status in July. So in July, WCA will reach out to us and say, here's your status for accreditation moving forward. So we are a school that's multi-accredited. We actually have 3. Our ECDC is accredited through NACE as well. So, and that's another unique thing. And all of these processes, again, are intended for continuous school improvement. It does present its own set of challenges being dually accredited. Since 2013, we've been nearly in a constant state of review and self-study and visit. So 2013, WCEA, we had NACE in 2015, midterm visit 2016 with WCEA, 2017 CAIS, and then 18-19 WCEA. Again, that's a lot of work and a lot of time. Each of these processes takes a lot of time and a lot of hard work. So we're working on that, how we take all of this hard work and really make it into a comprehensive strategic plan to carry the school forward. All of them are designed to do that. So we've got a lot of good information. One of the things that I wanted to make sure, because these processes, WCEA and the CAS, are very, very different from one another. And one of the worries I had in the CAIS, it was our first time doing that process, and it's for independent schools. And I didn't want the results of one accreditation to contradict the other. And that's where the conversations with the chair and the team about what kind of school we are and what work we've already done, because we already had a kind of strategic plan in the works, and for them to understand what direction we're going and doing things to help support and supplement the work that's already been done rather than to contradict it. And they were very open to that and very understanding. Now, it meant more work for them, so they not only had to read and digest our WCEA work, they had to read and digest our CAIS work. And we appreciate that because they got a better understanding not only of us as a school, but how independent schools run. So the results of that, the affirmation they gave us, the critical goals, all fold into the strategic plan and the ideas we've already been working on. Well, I've been here for 5 years. This is my 5th year, and I'm going to be departing in July. And it's been a wonderful experience here. I've worked with some of the most fantastic teachers, some of the most dedicated and loving parents, some of the most invested board members on our board and our KPA. It's been truly a privilege to be here. And I want to be able to hand off the baton in stride. Joel Savory was my gym teacher and track coach back in elementary school, and he always said, you need to hand off the baton in stride, and that's going to be my goal. So when I'm handing off to the next leader of the school, it will be in stride so that all of the things, hopes and dreams and work that we've been doing can continue to move forward. One of the questions that came through the RSVP that we sent out for this is, where's the status of the head of school search? So at this time, I would like to invite Colonel James Herrera, our board chair, to update you on the head of school search. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm tethered and I've got a mic, which once again, I'm not good at either. So that gives me flashbacks of being back in Washington DC. So look, I've got a transcript and the testimony I can submit later on for review. So I will stick to this sort of to give you an idea. So to date, we've sent out 2 communications, obviously. One back, I think, in like the 15th of February, and then one that went out today, actually, to kind of give a snapshot of where we are, where we're going, kind of piggybacking off of what Steven said. Just take a few minutes first before I give you about 5 facts, if you will. It'll kind of run through some of the things I know we're asked in the survey. The first thing is that obviously, like Steven was saying, the board is really very, very invested as parents, as supporters of the school, like the rest of you are, you know. We really do love the school here. We're invested in the process itself. We are very optimistic of the baton being handed over. We're not complacent nor over confident, I would say, at this point. That being the case, we do have complete confidence, like he said, in the team, both in the faculty, the staff, and the administrative teams. So we're in a good place as far as from the board's perspective. Now, that leads me to my 5 facts for you. So the first one is, let me just give you a quick example of who, what the composition of the hiring committee is in a sense. And it's composed of the executive committee of the board, it's about 5 of us, the school founders, the Bushes, which I think most of you know, Tim and Steph, and then we have 2 additional board members. So that's sort of your core group that is the hiring committee. Our committee chair is not me on purpose, that's actually my vice, that's Brandon Mascavallo. It allows me to kind of step back and look at a broader review than just look at the daily tasks that have to occur. Because we do meet basically weekly or every 2 weeks, either interviewing or review packages and working with the administration. So it is kind of a full-time job for most of us that are doing this. So that leads me to fact 1. So that was the hiring committee and the chair. Fact 2, so to date we've reviewed and or interviewed about 7 candidates. There is really one of further interest, if you will, and I have yet to meet with that individual. That'll happen next week. The intent there, though, is to kind of expand it. So it won't be just the core and that's it. Go in the back room somewhere and here it is. Literally, we'll expand it out. Once we get 2 or 3 that actually need to be further reviewed, we're going to bring it out to the entire board. We will have select parents as well. KPA governance team, if you will be participating, as will the faculty and administration. So once we get to that point, it'll literally be the interview panel, if you will, be much broader. We've even discussed the idea of bringing in some of our I'll call it upperclassmen, our 8th graders, if you will, to have a conversation with the final candidates and kind of see really how they respond to our kids. So it'll be much broader, but this is the core that we talked about there, the core hiring committee. Fact number 3, it is a deliberative approach. We're not going to, jump in the first shiny object, and nor are we going to accelerate the process because of the timeline. We understand that it is already May, right? We've got like 4 weeks, 5 weeks left in the school. Ideally, you'd love to have a smooth transition between 2 administrators, right? It's seamless. Realistically, that's not going to happen. Now, it's not impossible, probably improbable. That being the case, what we can expect, obviously, is to have, we ask for strategic patience. However, it'll really take what I call tactical level of engagement by the board, even throughout the summer. So for the board members that are listening, that are out there, they know this. It's going to take work even during the summer. So that's what we basically have invested our time in. Now, fact number 4, regarding the timing of this. So every head of school search, especially when you look at the timing of this, it's never going to be optimal, right? You don't have a crystal ball. There's a couple of other things to consider. There's other schools in the area that also are looking for leadership, principals, heads of school, and those kinds of things. The key thing for us, we have an advantage. We're, like Stephen was saying, we are not like every other school. So what we're looking for is sort of not what is being asked of that candidate that they're looking for itself. Which kind of leads me to my the final fact 4, 5. So what major qualities are we looking for, right? Because that's a key thing that we have to really engage a lot of the parents on, engage the faculty. What is the head of school when we look at how do we know that that's the next person we want? So the main 5, and some of these are not really a surprise, except when you really get in front of these candidates and actually pull out some of these things, right? Aside from reading the CV or the resume. First one's obviously leadership. Second one is vision, and what we mean by vision is where would this school be, not just within a year, 2 years, 3 years, really what are we looking at beyond that? And you really have to have a firm grasp of what's in the realm of opportunities around Orange County, across the nation, what are the best practices? So it's really the vision, but it's got to be really nested in what the mission of the school is in our community, right? So the second one is vision. Faith is the third one, because once again, it is an independent Roman Catholic school. It is based on our Christian values. So that's one. It's one of those things where we're not gonna, take a pass on because you happen to be a great, business leader. But no, you basically have to have the whole package. So it's gonna take some time. The next one, number 4, will probably be obviously it's experience. Now that one too has to be explained a little bit. It's not just academic experience. We are talking about business acumen, understanding obviously the other side, advancement, admissions, how to work with the community, both not just our community here, but externally as well. So there's a lot of that we expect from the candidate. And then the last one, which is huge, is obviously character. And that once again goes back to the mission. You have to be a mission fit, just like the parents and our students. This is the person that obviously will be the face, like Stephen, to really everybody, right? Whether it's a diocese, a sister school, Chamber of Commerce, a fund, a fundraiser, whoever it is. I mean, that's who represents us. So those are about the 5 main facts I can give you. Like I said, it is a deliberate approach. We are very cognizant of how important this school is to every single one of us, because we're all parents as well. And also with what our faculty and our staff, what their potential is to take this school to the next level. So that's really the point here is, like I said, be patient. We are really looking into it with a fine-tooth comb, but it's going to take a lot of work for the ongoing board members, especially in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully not the next couple of months, but if that's what it takes, that's exactly what we're committed to do for you. So at this point, that's kind of the quick snapshot. I'll take any questions now, and if not, whether you're on TV land, send us an email, a text, whatever it is. We'll take it down, and obviously we'll get back to you. So I'll just go in the room here first.
So objectively, what's the timeline?
Well, ideally, we'd love to have July, right? That would be when we can actually have enough time, and like I said, since Stephen is looking at the end of June, having a smooth transition with an actual, 3-phase, approach like we did with the onboarding when Stephen got here is not realistic. What will happen is the committees, by committee, and there's about 12 committees in the board, will work with the administration during that time period if there is a gap, if you will, and as we will then have to onboard that new head of school along with the division heads and the directors on the business side. So it'll almost be a one-on-one with about one head of school with about 5 or 6 different people kind of coaching and helping them along. Ideally July, but if not, we're here, like I said, to kind of work through it with whatever the opportunity is without rushing making a decision. Anybody else? No? Okay. Yes? Well, once again, like I said, we're looking at all the options are on the table, if you will. We have talked to people that were potential candidates a lot because of the timing are not interested in the interim position. We also, first do no harm, would rather not put in somebody that would either destabilize or have a different approach to where they would want to go for whether it's the interim meaning what, right? 1 year, 2 years. What we could say is, if we don't find the person that fits those 5 qualities, it would have to be a really discerning and in a decision that says you were coming on here literally for say a year, right? This is the direction that all of us will help you on, and we're still going to continue to look for additional candidates at the same time. So an interim is a potential option, but that's not what we're looking for right now. We'd rather have the person we want, take our time, and have them actually work with our faculty, our staff, and our division heads. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, James, so much. At this point, speaking of wonderful people that I get to work with, our divisional directors are going to talk a little bit about some school-wide initiatives that relate to some of the things I've already talked about, and I'll turn it over to them.
Welcome, everyone. Everyone's still there. I'm Maureen Bornasian. I'm the head of the middle school, and this is Christina Lux. She's the head of the lower school. We were going to talk to you first about Dr. Cash, as we had talked about at the last day of school, and wanted to kind of give you an update as to what was happening. If some of you don't know who Dr. Cash is, he is a differentiation expert. When we were in a lot of discussions with the academic committee and with our academic leadership team, we were talking about ways that we could take our best teacher practices to the next level, and we felt differentiation was an area that after reading survey results from parents and from talking with teachers, we really felt differentiation needed to take a next step, take to the next level. So we reached out to find the best person. Some of our teachers had worked with Dr. Cash. We had about 6 teachers over a 2-year period that had worked with Dr. Cash and just glowed about how amazing he was to work with. He's very engaging. And so we had him come out. He went through the entire school from pre-K all the way to grade 8 in the core classes in middle school. And he looked for trends and wanted to see where our teaching was at and where our students were at. And he did see a common theme that we were doing differentiation, but we needed to do it in a different way, that we needed to provide more choices in our centers for the students, and that we really needed to kind of get our students sometimes out of their comfort zone. So if they're a creative child, make them try different things where they're looking at the bigger picture or just thinking in different ways and stretching their learning. So that was really insightful. And we had a 3-hour training after he went through the entire school. We had a 3-hour training, intensive one. And he really wanted to focus on one thing, and that was the essential question. Because he noticed that our students were answering a lot of what and when and where type questions, but not enough of how and why. And we really want them to dig deep. And so we thought we really need to do these broader essential questions in the classroom so that the students are seeing the connections over all the different subject areas and really digging deep into what they're learning. So that's kind of what we worked on. That was our homework. He's coming back next week, so we're all a little nervous because he's going to be going through every classroom again, and he's going to be sitting down this time more one-on-one small group with each grade level PLC. So it's going to be the first grade teachers. They're going to have an hour with him, and he's just going to work and customize everything with them. So it's going to be very specific. For middle school, it's going to be based on department. So there's usually 3 people per department. So again, it's going to be small group, and they're really looking forward to that interaction with him and really customizing it to what they're doing and what they're teaching so that they can take their teaching practices to that next level and really create more meaningful, engaging lessons. So he's going to be here next week. He's also going to be meeting with our board next week to kind of get an interaction with them and so they can learn more about what Dr. Cash is about. And I'm going to pass it on to Christina Lux, who's going to talk a little bit more about some of our testimonials from our teachers.
So I have a question, maybe like a 30-second brain break here. How many of you and your kiddos were exhausted right before spring break because Easter was so late this year? Okay, you won't admit it, but we all were. I can tell you that these teachers, after seeing Dr. Cash, were so inspired to come back after break and integrate and implement what he had taught them. It was, we had a lot going on before Easter break and spring break, but they came back and just said they were excited, just stepping out of their boxes. And some teachers have been here for 20 plus years, and they really took a hard look and said, wow, I've never heard about education being integrated in this capacity. I myself went through my master's degree and now I'm getting my PhD in education. I've never heard education said like this before. So it was really inspiring, and all of the teachers really wrapped their arms around it and were excited to move forward. So that was my funny piece.
The next thing I wanted to talk to you about was our standardized test scores for the school. This year we decided to do the testing only in grades 3 through 7. We thought that would give us some more valuable information. We've had the 8th grades tests in the past, but sometimes they're kind of done taking tests, so and they're already taking and planning for the high school placement test. So we decided to stop at the 7th grade year. We did really, really well. It was a different version this year. It was the CTP version 5. And I was able to get the CTP 4 results that we had for the past 5 years and had them transferred over into the same scale score as the CTP 5. So when I did the analysis, we had significant gains from last year, more than 35 points in 15 of the 33 subtests from grades 3 through 7. And those tests are, for instance, auditory comprehension, verbal reasoning, quantitative reasoning, mathematics, word analysis, vocabulary. So there's quite a few different tests at different grade levels. This year was the first time that we've had none of the subtests were significantly lower. So we did wonderful. Usually you might have 1 or 2, and this year we did not have any, so we did great. And then in terms of, I know you've seen the report, there's a national norm, a suburban, and an independent. So the national is we're compared against all the schools in the United States. The suburban is all the public city schools in the United States. And then the independent norm are the smaller schools. We're talking the East Coast, real small boarding schools, and also international schools. So you're starting to get a smaller and smaller set. That's why you start to see the scores drop a little bit as you get to the independent norm, because you're getting with a smaller group that you're competing against. We did really well. We were superior with the national norm, and we were very competitive with the independent norm. We only had one subtest out of all 33 that was significantly lower when compared to the independent norm. We were higher in every single category, so that was a big improvement from last year. And we had our highest gains in grade 5 mathematics, grade 6 quantitative reasoning and vocabulary, and grade 7 verbal reasoning and writing mechanics. And when it was highest gains, it was 70 points or more, which is tremendous, because they said significant gains is anywhere from 35 to 60, so we're talking above 60 points, and we did tremendous. We had one that was in the 80s. So our students did very well this year, and I'm really proud. One thing I did notice though, the mathematics scores were a little different than the past, and so I went and I started to look. I compared the CGB4 to CGB5. We did see a change, and I gave all that information to the teachers the other day, and we're really doing analysis. It was more heavy this year on statistics, probability, and also algebra. And so we realize now we need to spiral those in throughout the year, because those are harder concepts for the kids to learn. And so we recognize that's where the mathematics had changed this year. And our students actually did better in quantitative reasoning, which usually it's flipped, that math is stronger, but this year was quantitative reasoning. So, any questions so far? Yes.
I have two questions. One is, which sub-test was that, where you got a lower point?
That was math 6, and when with
Math
sixth grade math, and when Mrs. Ash and I looked at it this week, we saw that 24 of the questions were higher level questions. Sometimes they do these test questions, but they were very high level. They were almost like math 7, and they were things that students had never learned. So now she realizes what students need to learn, so she's going to be spiraling that into her curriculum next year.
The second one is that you're sharing the highest gains.
Yes.
What are the lowest grade numbers, where, what grade those were?
Well, we can't do any comparisons for 3rd grade because they're just starting the test right there. But there were no significantly lower. We always had increases everywhere. There were just some that were significant. That was 35 to 60 points, and then we had really high gains. That's the highest gains were where it was above 60. But we didn't have any that were below.
What do you think? What drove that, the highest score?
This down here.
No, I mean the significant 35 points higher. What do you think? What drove that?
I think instruction, I think that we're being more mindful in terms of differentiation and the curriculum that we're using. We're using new programs like Wonders. Super Kids is the latest version in the lower grades. We're collaborating a lot more across grade levels and from middle school to lower school. So I think all of those factors play in, and I think definitely parents too, being more aware of what the curriculum is and being a part of the process. So I think it's a lot of different things. But I think definitely, I would say, we're seeing some different programming too. We've got mending in the middle school. That has helped our vocabulary scores go up. I know that sometimes I've switched a few teachers around strategically in the middle school, which has helped with some of the scoring too. Yes. Any other questions? You want to go to the next slide? So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about middle school, because I'm the head of the middle school. I started out my career here at St. Anne as a math teacher in the middle school. I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th. I taught every single class in the math department, so I'm pretty aware of what our curriculum is there. And I have the pleasure this year of leading the middle school, and I'm really excited. We have a great faculty. We brought on some new teachers that have worked in private schools before, and we are, I feel, a very strong team this year. The culture in the middle school is very strong. We bonded a lot, and I think that the students really feel that there's a shift and a change in the middle school, which has been great. Our enrollment is really strong, and we've got a big 8th grade class coming in, and we've got some great new families that are also coming in next year, so we're very excited about that. A lot of new 6th grade families that we're going to be welcoming in next school year. We have a very, before I talk about any of this, I wanted to talk to you about our programming. This year we brought in a new history program that is doing really well. Our FPS, which is part of the history honors, is growing by leaps and bounds. I just went to the FPS competition where we won quite a few awards, and I've learned that out of all the schools that are competing in California State Bowl, we are the only school that is growing our program. And they're all kind of looking to us to kind of model, like, what are we doing differently? And I think it's because we made it part of the history program. It's doing really well. Also, we are changing up a couple of our electives next year. You always want to freshen them up. We're going to have a garage rock band in the orchestra department. We also are going to be moving FLL into the technology and making it part of the middle school electives. So we'll be sending out more information about that, but we're always trying to add new things. And this year, I had mentioned before, we have Create and Innovate in the technology department too. Also, when WAS came out, the middle school did really well. We got recognitions for our Now Plus class with Mr. Hartman, because he deals with social issues and he really gives kids choices on how to learn about those social issues. And we did get some commendations for our strong honors program. Also, I've been meeting with a lot of department chairs, English and math, in our private schools at Mater Dei, Servite, JSER, and SM, and I'm finding out that we're doing really well. Our kids are prepared, that we're using programming that is very complementary to what they're using. Our textbooks at our higher levels are the same. Menbeam is the same. So we're really trying to align our curriculum where our students are going, whether that's public or private. So if you can move on to the next. My one thing I wanted to do was really work on building the relationships of our students. And we started this wonderful kindness initiative that you all know about. And it took off in the middle school, but I really wanted to get some real traction in the middle school. I think it's very important. And I've been working with Robert Erkley in the religion department on creating a new grade 8 religion class that would be more advanced. They've learned more about the history of religion and philosophy. And also those students that they would have to apply for it, they would be our kindness ambassadors. And they would be driving the kindness initiative in the middle school. And they would also be promoting our middle school campus ministry, and they really would be another level of our leadership. So we have leadership at ASB, but this would be a different form of leadership that they could work together. I think that this is a great way to take our kindness initiative to the next level. So I'm really excited. We're going to do a lot of hard work this summer, Robert Erkley and I, to make this all come to life. The second thing is we had some think tanks this year that were really great. We just had one for the students today. Dr. Marsulian and Dr. Want came out to talk to our 7th and 8th graders about stress and anxiety. You are all welcome. I put some flyers over there. You are all welcome to come to the parent one next week. It's for all grade levels, so please come. And I'm trying to set up ones for next year for fall, winter, spring with Mary Ann Lean, our nurse, that are for everyone, their parents, students, and also the faculty. I think it's really important that the faculty are able to be part of these think tanks. And some of the topics were handling stress and anxiety, responsible use of social media, and the students actually, I had one of these earlier this year for my 8th graders, was the effects of vaping on the teen brain. The kids are very wanting to discuss it, and I think it's a really important topic, especially when they're in middle school. So I'll be working on formulating those and really connecting everyone into those experiences with experts.
How have the previous think tanks gone? Because they have some cool.
They've done really well, yeah, and some of the topics can sometimes be more for the older children, but I think it's really important that preschool parents and lower elementary, that you educate yourself. So, example, the stress and anxiety, I know a preschool parent might say, well, why do I need that? But it is important to know what the tools are that you need to help your child and support them. We learned a lot today with Dr. Marceline and Dr. Want. They had great discussions with the students about, what causes stress for you, and to hear what the kids said, and they talked about depression and what are the signs, and it was great. The kids felt very open to discussing it, and I think it's great. Now we're going to have the parent one, so Dr. Marceline and Dr. Moore can explain to parents what they're hearing from our own students. But yeah, I'm excited. I think that we have good turnouts. I'd like them to be a little bit bigger, and I think we need to definitely offer them at 19 too. And then the last thing is our homeroom experiences. I'm working with some of our middle school teachers on having more thematic homeroom experiences because they meet once a week on Tuesdays. And we talked about resilience and stress and organization because we do need to teach our middle schoolers how to be organized and study skills. So we are working on that. I have a homeroom committee and we're going to be working this summer on creating those great experiences. And I think then I passed along. Oh no, this is the most important one. I forgot. So this is our high school data. So every year we get information, and this year we got information from Mater Dei because some of our students, we've got 3 that are going to Mater Dei this year. And we get information from SM and J. Sarah. And these are some of the data, so I'm just going to go through it quickly. About 50% of our students who took the placement test this year, they take a high school placement test. It's called the HSPT. And in math and English, we had about 50% were placed in honors English and math for next year as freshmen. Students scored on average when you compare because they give us our scores, and then they give us all the scores of the students that are not, that would be from St. John, Sarah Catholic, St. Ed's, maybe public. I'm going blank on other ones, but the other private schools, we were 5% higher in every category. Our scores were tremendously higher this year. We had exceptional scores in verbal and quantitative reasoning, and also reading comprehension was significantly higher than all the other schools. I think they were sometimes 60 points higher. So we did very well. We had 5 students that almost got a perfect score. I had 1 that got a perfect score, and those students got a scholarship to the private school. We had 1, now this is in regards to our St. Anne graduates that graduated this year and they're freshmen in college this year. We had 1 that was a National Merit finalist, and they had $3.265 million in scholarships, and those are some of the schools that they're in presently right now. And there's quite a few that are at LMU, at UCI. There's like maybe I think 3 or 4 at LMU. One's at Penn State. We got a couple at Notre Dame. We have 1 on a baseball scholarship at Stanford. I think he'll be a major league baseball player one day. I'm hoping to see him there. But our students are doing exceptionally well. I think our faculty from all the way down from preschool all the way to 8th are preparing our students always for their high school education. Any questions? Yes.
I have a question. So, for those who have middle schoolers, what we've done traditionally in the past is we've had their involvement in the National Junior Honor Society.
Yes.
And this year we attempted, or at least announced, the implementation of the California Scholarship Federation.
Yes.
And I'm just curious, are we going to pursue with that?
We are, and so we're doing this transition from National Honor Society to California CJSF. And we're going to have a little ceremony for them, and we're going to have an event coming up in May for them to do a community service event. It was just the transition over, and with graduation all, because we've got 2 different programs with the cords and the pins and everything. So next year it'll be, it's just because it was a transition year. But there is information that's going to be coming to you.
So the incoming middle schools will then apply for it this year or
Yes.
next year? Or?
Well, the 7th graders have already applied, and then they'll just apply next year because it's for 7th and 8th grade only. Yes. Any other questions? Okay, I talked enough. Now it's Christina.
Thank you. So my name is Christina Lux. I was thinking about this, I do my best thinking on the car ride here. And I was so excited to say, this is my completed first year here, but I'm short about 3 weeks. So I can say that soon, but not quite yet. So again, just a little bit of background on myself. I've been in education for over 15 years, and prior to coming to St. Anne, I was over at J. Sarah High School, so it's kind of nice to see the overarching similarities between the 2 institutions from K through 12. I had this great presentation, I thought, planned, and then I looked at your feedback and it was nothing near what I wanted to talk about, so I figured I'd err on the side of caution and look at the 2 things that came up most in the RSVPs, and the first was homework, and then the second is really looking forward in terms of where I see lower school plans for the summer, and then what we're really excited about to integrate next year. So I did a little research. Homework trends have been up and down. Since 1920, there was a spike. There was this huge push to help discipline minds, and they really need to go home, and it was kind of a drill and kill, direct instruction type mentality. And then people thought, this homework thing is really interfering with our family time, and I'd like to cut it back, so they cut it back. And then something significant happened in 1957 that really skyrocketed the need and the want and desire for homework. Does anyone know what happened in that year? 1957, starts with an S. Sputnik. That was the push to get kids to go and have this huge, this need and this desire, thinking that homework will solve everything. If we just pile down the homework, we have to stay above the we have to stay above the Germans. So that was the kind of the push, and ever since then, people have kind of battled between, well, is that really the way to best teach in schools, or is that really just trying to cover up for some other loss in terms of education? So I turn to our competitors. There's no correlation between the names or anything that's used up here. But I did, and I apologize, the font is kind of small, but I did look at our 4 local schools. All 4 of them do adopt some sort of a homework policy, and they do believe in the value of homework. School A said has an essential place in the educational program. I was right there, right after the word homework in their handbook. It is essential. Concept engagement, reinforcing skills, unfinished classwork, it's gotta go home, it has to be done. Just that kind of, like I said, drill and kill thinking. School B had a little more of a softer approach. They wanna make sure it's relevant and mindful of the students or within the students and part of their lives and their discipline. I think this is probably where we are in terms of our policy and most in line here. They intended it to be more for review and practice. There was a big emphasis on reading for fluency, reading daily, and then also reflecting with the parents in terms of what does that mean? Why are you doing it this way? I've never seen math done this way. This is not how I did it when I was young. And just getting those conversations going. School C, total opposite. Homework and unnecessary pressure can be counterproductive to the love of learning. Okay, but then I dig a little deeper, and Denise, you'll find this interesting. The 2-year-old classroom has a minimum of a half hour of homework every day. So a little bit of an interesting thing going on there. But they did believe that homework did have a purpose, and as long as it was aligned to learning, that there was a place for it. And then the last one, again, pretty similar to our policy here, is just making sure that projects, worksheets are, I'm sorry, I apologize, let me step back. Aside from projects and worksheets, they really believe in the value of taking an assignment home, making sure that it's done independently, that the student does gain confidence in that independent work, and also that they're engaging at home with their homework and their curriculum. I still thought it was interesting too, this is also in line with us, where their timing and how they portion out homework in terms of lower school versus middle school was also very similar. So again, to answer some of the questions you all had on homework, this is the policy we strive towards in terms of homework. And I can say that for lower school, and Maureen and I talked about this as well, and that does carry through to middle school as well. And that homework should be something that's helping to create good habits, good attitude, and character. It is not a good thing to think that once you leave high school or college that you will never have homework. It's called something else. It's called work that you do and have to take home, because sometimes after your job, you have things that have to be completed on the weekend. And again, just ingraining those good habits and positive character, we believe, is very important. The second one also is crucial, parent involvement. We have so many involved parents here, which is fantastic. They're very in the know in terms of what our teachers are teaching and what they're learning, and having that constant communication is essential. And that does, again, come from the idea of having a good, strong homework policy. And then, yes, there is that reinforcement in terms of being able to know when the student comes home and says, I can do these math problems, can you just check them for me? Or am I doing this right? There's really a lot of truth to that. Skipping to the second step, actually, let me go back to questions on homework. Yes.
So does that mean you guys are not reevaluating the level of homework that has been given at this point? I mean, because I also think this is a very general statement.
Sure.
Where there's, first grade and fifth grade should be obviously a very different expectation. So are you guys having these discussions about potentially, considering at least a partial elimination of what's being given?
I'll speak. we don't have any intention of doing away with homework. I think homework is there to stay. Now, can we do a better job of making homework more purposeful?
Yes.
Yes, I think so. And I think that's constant, and that's gonna change from the class, it's gonna change from the age, it's gonna change from the time. If I'm a first grade teacher, that might look different for my first graders this year versus next year. But I think that's always something that's constantly changing, and I'll speak to this in a moment, but that's where our curriculum track really comes in terms of what do we want to kind of tweak and work with. But I also don't want to give you false hope in that if we say 15 minutes should be every single first grader's homework, so I don't want it to be so confined in that capacity either. But I think for always, all teachers, we wouldn't be doing we wouldn't be doing our jobs, and we wouldn't be doing the students a service if we were just sticking to the same policy every year, year over year. So we're constantly, and I'm hearing it in their PLCs also, they're talking about how to make homework more purposeful. And also the integration of Dr. Cash is not only purposeful, but what is that overall essential question? Okay, great, you're supposed to learn about X, but why? And how does that integrate back into math? And how can you apply that into science? So hopefully you'll see an adjustment in the curriculum overall that should bleed over into the homework. Does that answer your question?
Enough.
Other questions? Okay, going forward, so professional development, we have so many teachers attending great professional development opportunities. And my kind of thinking is we go to these professional development things, and I'm at fault at this as well, and then I come back and I am just so much better. I'm such a better administrator, and I've got this great thing, but I'm really dealing in a silo and I'm not sharing everything that I've learned. So what if there's another administrator that wants to glean off of what I've learned? So I really want to implement an intranet style professional development tool where teachers that do go, I just saw IT go, what? Where teachers can pull from this content and really kind of start collaborating collectively in terms of the experiences that they're going on. So that's something we'd like to do, and also integrate into the middle school. I talked to a middle school teacher about that as well. We'd like to really take a look at our ASP programs. We have a survey going out to parents, so look out for it sooner than later. And we just want to get your feedback. Are we doing a good job with ASP? Can we do better? Where are we weak? What do you think about the timing, the length, the duration, the quality, all that good stuff? I think after school programs for the kiddos that are here, they love it, but we want to make sure they continue to love it, and that it's also a good extension of our mission and the curriculum that we deliver to them. Science is a big one. For K through 8, we're looking to adopt something. And I will say that very broadly because we don't want to be married to something too soon. We want to make sure that our investigation of the science curriculum adopted for K through 8 is specific, it works for what we need, and it's applicable from kindergarten through 8th grade. Now, that could be a variation of, texts and supplementary materials throughout, but we want to make sure that we do it right. We don't want to just adopt something because it's new and fresh. So next year, we have a couple of grade levels that are looking to pilot certain programs, work with it, work in the content, and then if it's not working, we kick it aside and we try something new. That should be seamless. You shouldn't see any of that reflected in terms of misalignment or anything, but we are looking towards that, and I'm hoping not this 1920 school year, but 2021, that we do have something in place that's really enriching and can really hit on all of those STEAM, stream, curriculum type things. And I know the same thing is true with middle school. We kind of piggyback on a lot of these things as well. And the final, and this comes from one of the critical goals from our WASP accreditation, we really need to know what a St. Anne student looks and feels like in terms of the SLEs. What does this all mean? So it was recommended that we come up with a rubric to kind of show, how you quantify the SLEs. One way I think that we already put into practice really well is notable nights. That's exactly our SLEs right there. So just kind of tweaking that and working with teachers to get a little bit more content behind that, we can hit one of those critical goals very, very quickly. All right, questions? Yes.
You mentioned that the science curriculum is gonna be reevaluated. Are there other curriculum, new curriculum ideas that you guys are considering?
Not right now. We just adopted in K through 5 the new Wonders program, and well, I should say for 3 through 5, new Wonders, which is language arts, and then the new social studies curriculum. And that was a lot to throw on those teachers, two changes and adoptions in 1 year. So we're going to step back, evaluate the science, and then go forward. Now, you have to keep in mind that textbooks are outdated, and so we're constantly reevaluating curriculum. But in terms of next year, we're not looking to make any changes or adoptions other than the integration of, Dr. Cash's idea.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. How are you guys gonna implement the differential learning within the curriculum that you already have?
So that's not done by a textbook. That's just classroom management and planning, collaboration, vertical and horizontally. So that's kind of the next level. The textbook is just, he said a great quote. He said that the textbook is not your curriculum. Your curriculum is not your text. That is the content. And I didn't even say that. He said it really much more eloquently than I can. But it was just a tool that the curriculum is the way that it's delivered from the teacher. So the curriculum is always changing. The words on a page are just, your toolbox. So in that capacity, I don't mean to confuse the question, but we're constantly looking to revamp, differentiate, change, tweak, work the curriculum, but the toolbox that we have is the foundation, and that we're not looking to change that for next year. I will turn it over to Denise.
Good evening, Denise Slocum, the Director for Early Child Development Center. I just want to say thank you so much for all of you attending here as well as at home. I've been the director now for 5 years, and we're going to go ahead and move on. So the Early Child Development Center, we've been experiencing a lot of neat things in our center. One of the things has been the renovation of our classrooms. So one of the unique things we've found is that comfort equals contentment and concentration for our students, especially at this age, because they are very busy. So one of the things that we've implemented is new chairs that meet our children's postures, because also we've got good posture, we can concentrate, and we can take our task at hand in front of us. So you can see there's a couple of pictures. We've invested in the community playthings, furniture for our kiddos. So all of our classrooms have received new tables as well as chairs. They all fit. They're all ergonomically correct for their little body posture. So you just kind of see some of those that we've implemented in the classroom, and our kids enjoying that. This is our 2-year-old program. With the 2s, we were able to implement chairs that have the sidings for them that help them to kind of sit within their seats. Another one of the things is we looked at each of our classrooms and assessed them, and we noticed that some of our classrooms needed some newer storage and shelving units, so we incorporated those in a couple of our classrooms. And this is one of the incredible features that the kids really enjoyed. So we noticed that the dramatic play centers are a very popular place for our early childhood learners. They really enjoy pretending they're doctors in home center, or pretending they're mommy taking care of the doggy at the pet vet. So with our new kitchens, we've brought these into several of our classrooms, and the children have really been enjoying them. So you can kind of see a couple of our little kiddos gainfully employed and enjoying their little time of discovery inside of their home centers. Looking forward to next year, a few of the things that we're looking to implement was mentioned a little bit earlier by Ms. Bernasian, and that's to incorporate ECDC think tanks for our parents. Even though we include with our think tanks currently a broad spectrum from preschool all the way until 8th grade, we're going to be specializing just a few more think tanks that will specialize just for the Early Child Development Center parents. Also, we spoke about the differentiation of curriculum and Dr. Cash. And one of the nice compliments that he paid to the Early Child Development Center in his review of his findings is that when he walked into a couple of our rooms of pre-K, he was able to ask the kiddos some questions. And they were able to articulate why it is that they were learning what they were. And so that was something that, in regards to essential questions that were mentioned to you, it's really important for us to make sure that our students understand why are we learning about the planets? Why are we learning about insects and how they function in our world? And all that critical thinking and those essential questions are what we want to do to support those learners to move on to their next year of their education in lower school and have you. So with that, we found through the findings that adding additional manipulatives would definitely be an advantage to our program. So that's something we will start implementing more so in the next school year. Also, the dramatic play, we're going to be incorporating theme boxes next year. So in order to enhance our dramatic play, we're going to be creating little boxes where each classroom will have a theme. So it might be post office theme, or the classroom may even come up with their own. And then we're going to create boxes that will then rotate through all the classrooms during dramatic play to just enhance more of that learning for the students. The last one we have is the outdoor classroom. So we have been working on implementing the outdoor classroom, and we are also going to be working towards accreditation with that for the outdoor classroom. And with that, one of our plans is to increase different areas out there, so to add and implement different sections. You saw in the previous state of school that we did the arbor and we did the amphitheater and a couple other water cascading things supporting our stream. And our next year project will be the raised planter beds. So that's one of the things that we're going to be doing to work more forward in the next year to come. So, Mr. Cunningham, did you want to close us?
I will.
Any questions for Mrs. Slocum?
I'm sorry.
Thank you. I have, like I mentioned, I have the great pleasure of working with some wonderful people, and our academic leadership team, Maureen and Christina and Denise, along with Kristen Sylvester, our school psychologist. We meet once a week. We collaborate and work together. All the things we're talking about here, we all think and talk and share ideas about. It's been a privilege for me to work with them over the last 5 years. At the last state of the school, one of the things that I had mentioned is that this is, just one conversation among many. So what was presented tonight, the questions that were asked, the information that was shared, it doesn't end in this room, and that all of us are available to speak with you if you have further questions or want to meet or talk more, share ideas and thoughts about the school. That's something we're always very much open to, and that's something that I've appreciated being here as well over the last 5 years. Well, before we depart, I would want to make sure that we can open it up to any other questions that people have. Before you're dismissed, to pick up your children if you have them in our daycare, and they probably won't want to leave because they're having the time of their lives.
I have a question on enrollment and how we're doing.
We're doing well. We're still kind of in the throes of enrollment season, and we have our financial aid process kind of at work now. So people who are going through financial aid are kind of coming into the fold. We're approaching about 560 for next year. We've got We've got about 56 new students for next year. We have the rest of this year in the summer. If you've been to our wonderful summer camp that's open to the whole world, we have a number of different students each year from summer camp that end up coming to St. Anne as well. Our admissions office is hard at work. Each day we're getting alerts about tours that are coming in and shadowing and kids coming into classrooms. So it's still a work in progress, and as we get further into May and certainly by June 1st, we'll have kind of a better idea of where we're at. Other questions? Well, thank you so much for coming this evening, and have a pleasant evening, and we will see you down the road. Again, we're available at any time if you have questions. God bless.